sharing. We have Edith Harpe coming to give us a little background on the junior service. I still want to call it Junior Welfare League because when I was in it, that's what it was. On the Junior Service League and the Follies. And if you haven't got your Follies ticket, be sure and get one and support them. Edith was president when the first Follies was given back in 1953. So, Edith, I won't take you steal any more of your thunder.
Turn that on. I don't like these things. Okay. This is going to be 2 or 3 moments because you can't cover all this in just a moment. But anyway, some of you, maybe 1 or 2 of you, may not know very much about the Welfare League. Maybe you already learned. Well, it was the Junior Welfare League. It was organized in 1936. It is 60 years old this year. It was organized by Dot Young and Leela Grant, who were young brides who married Cedartow boys, and they came and they organized this like a club that they had belonged to. It was organized not as a social club, but as a working club, just solely for the welfare of the children in this area. We didn't have refreshments. I was surprised last month to find that they do have finger food before they leave, which is pretty good. But we were in a social club and we couldn't have refreshments. The club has a limited membership of 50 young women, and each one is required to put in 50 hours of service during the club year. If you're going to be absent from a meeting, you are to call and explain why you're absent. But even on an excused absence of 4 times, you are called before the executive board to explain why you've been absent so much. I wondered if that would work in our churches. It was a hands-on club. It is a hands-on club. My first experience was the soup kitchen on Gibson Street School. You all remember over there? We planned the menus, we bought the groceries, we went down there and we cooked a hot lunch for those kids, and we were awfully glad when the governor took that over for us. But we did hands-on, yes. We did the ringworm checks. You remember, we'd go in the schools, and we bought a certain lamp, a purple lamp, and we would get them in one child at a time in every classroom in this town. Turn that light on, and we would part the hair. And this is all of them. Sometimes hair was plaited. We had to plait it back if we owned it. Well, we worked. We didn't just make money and give it away. We worked with our services, and they still are working. So that brings us up, why did we have the Follies? Well, as our services expanded, so our expenses expanded. And we had to have a project to make a lot of money. And Mary Brewster and Susan Graves got behind this project. But first let me say, when I was asked to go down to the league last month, to tell about the first Follies, I called about 3 former members to find out just exactly how this all came about. Well, I got just as many versions as how it came about as the people I called. So I'm using my version, which the details may not be exactly the same, but the facts are the same. So, but Mary and Susan they knew that their own league had Follies. And we found out that Mr. Cargill, the Jerome H. Cargill, married a Roman girl. And that's the way that company got down in the South, I presume. But they did a real thorough job of getting all the information and all that we needed. And then they came back and did a little politicking and presented it to the club. And we just, well, okay, it's a little leery. What is this all about? But anyway, we voted, oh yeah, we would have the Follies next year, 1953. Now, you may know where you were in 1953, but we didn't. And we sure didn't know where we were going. We wouldn't have started, I don't think, had we known. But the advance man came, and we had the chairman of all the committees to meet. And somebody's home, I believe, at this time. Well, he scared us to death. He laid out all of these things we were supposed to do. We were just housewives, young mothers, young children, a few professionals, a few school teachers. Well, it scared us, so we had a call meeting. And we reported, all the chairmen reported our responsibilities. Well, bedlam broke loose. It was so overwhelming, we couldn't do this. And questions started back and forth. And it seemed to me that that woman's building down there was just rocking back and forth. And the discussions got to be arguments, friend against friend, pros and cons. And all of a sudden, Fanny Brewster was sitting right there on my left side, stood up, and in her school teacher voice, she said, girls, girls, girls. We quieted down. She said, we are not dealing with a bunch of cutthroats here. We are dealing with a respectable company. We have voted to do this. We have signed the contract. We have got to cooperate with them and with each other. Well, from then on, we did pretty well, until the director came. Well, no, he hadn't gotten here yet. That advance man said that the director, when he got here, we had to have a place for him to stay. We had to furnish transportation for him. And furthermore, we had to furnish a telephone in his room. Okay, now Wayside Inn was open. That took care of that. Transportation. So few of us had 2 cars in the family at that time. He could walk easy from the Wayside Inn up to the auditorium. Now this was the old city hall, what is now the old courthouse now. But the telephone in a private room in a hotel, who ever heard of such a thing? Well, one said, this guy make all his personal phone calls, charge it to the league, and we'll have to pay it. Well, that was some discussion, and that's when Van Laar again and said, okay, we got to take care of things, we got to cooperate. So we cooperated a little bit, but he never did get that phone in his room. And I thought about that today, and I think, today we have a telephone in every room in our house, in our car, we go around with a beeper, and we wouldn't let that poor man have a telephone. I guess one of the hardest jobs, certainly one of the hardest jobs for me was selling ads. We had to go to all the business people, the professional people, and sell them on this idea. Well, man, we got opposition to this. The business people in our community, they did not approve of what we were doing whatsoever. They didn't want to see this much money going out of town. And they didn't trust anybody from New York City, for goodness sakes. And really, it was very scary to us for a while. But the girls persisted. They were super salesmen. And I'll tell you one thing, a lot of them were husbands of the members, and they just didn't have much choice but to give an ad. But as usual, as they do to this day, we are supported by the community. Well, the talent committee, now I have to tell you this, I'm going way over that moment, but we knew there was a Rockette review in there. So we had already picked out these cute little girls down at high school can you hear this? At high school to be in this chorus line. Well, the director got here and he said, oh no, we do not use high school girls in this production. And Doc Young spoke up, and why not? He said, well, they're young, they giggle, they chew gum, they don't come, they're not responsible. He said, it is the policy to never use them. Well, that policy had never run up against Dot Young and Leora Grant. They both had daughters in high school, and those daughters were going to be in the Follies. And they were. And they were so cute and so young. And then the other problem, another problem the talent committee had, they couldn't get the men in this community community to cooperate very well. So the director suggested that they pick some prominent, influential men and talk them into being in the show, and they did, and they called on Bill Bruner, Paul Ostrander, Albert Moore, Bernard Thomas, and some others. One of my fond remembrance of that first Follies is Paul Ostrander and Bernard Thomas doing the soft shoe dance to brush up on your Shakespeare. I just, that was just, and people would say, "Oh, Mr. Bruno ain't that? Okay, well, it's okay then." And somebody, "You mean Mr. Thomas is going to get up there?" So we had no problem. From then on, everything was taken care of. Now, the costume committee had a little problem because, see, we didn't have the dressing rooms of that auditorium were not large enough to hold one skit, much less everybody. So that first year, the women's dressing room was in the old bus station, and the cafe was greasy and everything had to be cleaned out. The men's dressing room was across the street over there in the Wright Lopez building, which I think was a telephone company at one time. But anyway, so we had to have runners from the dressing room up to the city auditorium to say, "All right, you on next, you on next." And there we would go back and forth. No matter it was raining, there we'd go. Well, the production, the company in New York furnishes costumes, and they used to come just the week of the rehearsal. We were not allowed to take them home. So we had to go down to these little dressing rooms, and Mary and Dot and all them based up these things to fit us. And but ironically, the little Rockettes, the little high school girls' costumes didn't ever get here. So Mary and Dot and some others in the committee hustled around and got some white shorts and white T-shirts and got the girls fitted, and it looked kind of bland. Well, they went up to Mr. Philpott's 10-cent store in April and asked him to pull out his Christmas decorations, and they got spangles and fringe and sparkles and put all over, and they were the cutest things in the show. Thank goodness for the new auditorium. Well, a lot of the Rockettes were cute. Another highlight, I think, of our show was the men's ballerina number. We had, y'all remember that, we had Glenn White, we had C.W. Hobson, and they wore little pink tutus. And they were just doing their steps, and one member's tutu started to fall. And he put his hand up and grabbed it, this hand up and grabbed it. All of a sudden, the whole thing started. Well, he grabbed it like this, and he just did this way. You know, the show must go on. It's a trooper. But we had a good time, and it turned out it was a howling success, howling in a lot of ways. The tutu brought this house down. And we don't have little errors like that anymore, and that's a shame, because that really made that show. But we made, you wouldn't believe, we made almost $10,000 on that first show. And that's a good record. And this shows how these young women could work. Now the girls, well, we didn't change the name to the Junior Service League because they became affiliated with a national organization, which is nice to have. These girls are girls of the 90s, and they're not like we were. They're a little more open-minded, they're very smart, some of them are professional. But the Junior Service League is a vital part of this community and of its history. And I don't hesitate to say to you that I firmly believe that the Junior Service League does more for the togetherness of this town than any other organization, along with all that good work that they do. And you know what they do. If you're not, I'd be glad to take another hour and tell you. But when you go to the Follies, look around the people that are there and people that are participating. When you go out to Peaks Park, to the Arts Festival, look at the people there having a good time. is an intermingling of the cross-section of this whole area. People having fun together, loving it and laughing for a good cause. It makes you feel good to be a part of it. And I'll see you at the Follies.
That was just wonderful, Edith, and I do want to tell you we've got some of the old programs out back there. After the meeting, you'll want to look at them, and there's some scrapbooks back there that are so much fun to look at. How many people here were at one time or are presently a member of the Junior Service League? Just raise your hand. We've got some representation of several that were. Enjoyed that so much. And now, Nancy, we've got another part of our big program coming.
I'm real happy tonight to introduce as our speaker Don Briscar, who is our auditorium manager. As you know, we've had several different ways of running our new 20-year-old auditorium since its inception, but Don came to us last year. He is a native of Ohio, but he's lived in Rome for 12 years, so he's with us, okay? And his background is both in theater and in management, and he has just done a great job up here, and I want him to tell you about what's going on at the auditorium besides the Follies. Don?
Thank you. I'm going to make a few adjustments here. By the way, we have a limited number of Follies tickets available at the auditorium. And I'm there from 8:30 to 4:30. I'll sell them to you. I want to do a couple of things. I want to do a little historic perspective on the auditorium in a number of ways. I want to pass around the original booklet from the dedication in 1976. I also want to pass around these articles, newspaper articles for you to keep. These were written, one was April 22nd, 1976. The other was April 30th, 1976. One about the Cedartown Civic Complex dedication, and one says surprises on tap for the auditorium opening. And you can keep these if you don't have a copy of this article. Gives you a little, just a little brief history of what was going on in 1976. And I'll also pass around this booklet. This is the program booklet from the dedication and the performance of May 1st, 1976. The building cost $1,250,000, which in 1976 was probably a lot of money. It's 222 feet by 105 feet. Seats 1,012 people. I like the way this is worded. It says the sound system is the latest design. We've replaced that sound system just recently because, in fact, that sound system is being looked at by a high school. They might be interested in buying that. And it talks about the stage, the size of the stage, and the dressing rooms. So the dressing rooms are approximately 12 by 12 on either side of the stage, and in 1976 that was probably adequate, but I promise you tonight the Follies is being rehearsed and they're using the entire north lobby for dressing rooms. But the good news is I'm negotiating with the city the building of two additional dressing rooms. One in the north lobby, one on the south lobby. So that should help with a lot of the different things that we do. The auditorium will be 20 years old. And the thing that I'm excited about is I'm trying to let people really in northwest Georgia and all of Georgia know about this facility. I came to Rome in '84, and with a theater background, when I found out about the auditorium, I thought it was pretty exciting to have something this nice in a small community that presented professional theater. And I've come down to a number of productions over the years. But it's still at a point where you have the best equipped stage in northwest Georgia. If you drew a line across Interstate 20 to Marietta, up 75 to Tennessee and across, there's no stage in that entire corridor of Georgia that is well equipped as the one in Cedartown. The one in Rome is close, it's a bigger stage, but they don't have a lot of the fly area that we do and everything else. So this is the best equipped stage in this part of the state. And I'm trying to get this message out to a lot of people to come in and see this place and use this place. Along with that, tomorrow, Bill Lisinski of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is coming to write a story, do photographs on the 20th anniversary of the auditorium. He's using the Follies rehearsal as his hook to show that here's a facility that is used by the community and is used for the community. So he writes the Main Street, Georgia column, if you've seen that in the Atlanta Journal, and he's expecting that to appear close to the first part of May. He may not use it right away, but tomorrow he's coming in to do some interviews, talk to me, talk to some of the members of the Junior Service League who are working on Follies, and talk to our incredible technical staff about this facility and what makes it special. A lot of things have made it special over the years. About once a week I uncover a new gem of history on this place as to who performed there over the years. And I've tried to keep that tradition alive. This past season we've had, of course, Hurricane Opal devastated us with Greater Tuna, which was a funny show, but you probably didn't have a phone the day of Greater Tuna. You probably didn't have any power on the day of Greater Tuna, but the 300 plus souls who did, we appreciate them being there. The James Gregory show was a hit. Annie was incredible. We're turning the corner as far as growth in people starting to know about this place. One other event we have coming up on May 9th, which I'm excited about, is we have the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra. And that show should do very well. If you're familiar with Tommy Dorsey, his original trombonist, Buddy Morrow, is conducting his orchestra now. And he is coming along with a gentleman, I cannot remember his name, he's a vocalist. His style is a lot like Frank Sinatra. I've heard a tape of him, so it should be a pretty exciting show. That will conclude our series for this year. And as Nancy knows, we bang our heads every now and then trying to find out what we can bring in during the course of the next year. And at this point, I'm negotiating, I think, 14 shows to try to cut it down to 4. But I will tell you this, we have our monster hit for next season. I want you to mark December 5th of '96 on your calendar for the National Touring Company of the Sound of Music. This is the production that toured last year with Marie Osmond. Marie has left the show. They've replaced a number of the other characters at the same company, but the Sound of Music is going to be our hook next year for selling tickets. We're also negotiating with any number of things from Dixieland, country music, to Chinese acrobats, to comedians. We're talking about a lot of different things right now. We just have to see what fits. But the Sound of Music is the one thing that's pretty much locked up. I mentioned trying to get the word out about this facility. I have this dream that this facility should be used at least 200 days out of the year by someone, whether it's people in this community or whether it's people who want to bring in a gospel show, a country show, anything, just as long as it's used. The Cedartown Civic Arts Commission on March 1st of last year took over operation of the auditorium. The auditorium is no longer a department of the city of Cedartown. They're responsible for the physical plan of the building, but it is the Arts Commission, the board, and my responsibility and my staff to run the auditorium to benefit the Arts Commission. The city no longer benefits from any money made, or they don't lose any money lost either on the shows. So anything that happens here now is responsible of the Arts Commission. We've got an exciting group, and I think we're all on the same page. We're heading in a good direction, and we want more people to use this facility. Coming up on April 20th, we have a gentleman from Stevenson, Alabama, who is bringing in country artist John Conley, who had some success in the early 80s. He's coming in to do a show. He also wants to come back in May and bring another show in. So we got his attention. There are other people who are looking at the facility to do some other stuff down the road. I'm talking with WGAA about doing something this summer along the lines of the Grand Ole Opry, calling it the Cedartown Opry, with local country and gospel talent and broadcasting it on the radio, just to try to give it some use and give it some publicity. But we plan to make it a more active facility over the next couple of years, and I think the thing in the Atlanta Journal will help. I have some other marketing plans to go around the 20th anniversary I hope people will pay attention to outside of this area. We know what we have here. There's a lot of people that don't, and we're going to work to get their attention drawn to Cedartow.Georgia. When I first got here last February, I was aware of a lot of the stuff that went on with regard to the series, but I was unfamiliar with the children's programming. And you want to talk about something that is exciting, is when you have 1,000 kids in the auditorium, teachers trying to get them in their seats to see a show, then the lights go out and you have 1,000 kids screaming. It's a remarkable sound, but you know, your eyes well up and everything else, because you know that they feel the excitement of what's about to happen. The Children's Enrichment Program started in 1985 with the idea of creating an arts education outlet for the kids in Polk County. This year, every child in K through 5 in Polk County will have been witness to some type of professional theater presentation, whether it's at the auditorium or in the schools. The Children's Enrichment Program works in two ways. We present theater for them at the auditorium, which we bus them in. We also present some type of programming in the schools to benefit them. Two programs, one that took place already in the schools was something that's really exciting for fourth graders. It's called an acting and expression workshop, where this company in Atlanta called Telltale Theater comes in, and they take fourth graders all day long, and they just work with them, show them how to